Good morning, Year 10. Mr. Ray here. It is the next instalment of your biology online tutorial. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction for the unit that most combined scientists have been set for home learning, which is B11 from the Caboodle textbook, which is the endocrine system. So I'm just going to switch over to that right now and we'll get this underway. There we go. So the endocrine system. Okay, it's me, Mr. Ray. We're going to talk through actually what this involves, and it very much links in with what we talked about in our last video with the nervous system about the key term, which is homeostasis. Homeostasis is the all-important process or sequence or family of processes in our body which is involved in keeping it in a same state and optimum conditions for our body to function. Any deviation from that, too hot, too cold, too much blood sugar, too little blood sugar, can lead to massive changes in the way our body works and can have huge impacts on our health. Most importantly, if our conditions change, they can affect those all-important proteins in our body called enzymes, particularly with regards to temperature. And that they can have a massive impact on our ability to function. And if our enzymes get too hot, they become denatured, and then we can have grave problems with our chemical processes that they're involved in. So the endocrine system is very much linked in with, just like the nerves were, in sending messages around the body to change ways certain organs or target tissues are working to try and bring things back to optimum whenever there is a change away from it. So we're going to look at the module overview very briefly. This tutorial is not going to be a full teaching tutorial. It's going to have a couple of activities on some of the key sections, but it will require you to look at the Caboodle textbook for the pages that are listed on Show My Homework and any of the posted videos that are on your homework, such as the free science lessons resources. Just to remind you, the module has, the first part is explaining what endocrine glands are and where they are actually located. Then we talk about how they're involved in controlling blood sugar, and I'm going to spend a bit of time with you on that one. Then we talk about what happens when that doesn't work effectively and how that can link to type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Then, if you're doing higher tier, you'll look at the role of this process called negative feedback, and particularly the role of a hormone called thyroxine. Okay. Then we will look at hormones and how they trigger the onset of puberty in teenagers, and they're very much involved in the coordination of the menstrual cycle and how they're interlinked with actual that monthly cycle in mature females. And finally, we look at how our understanding of hormones and their involvement in the menstrual cycle and how we can use that to develop contraception, such as the contraceptive pill, and fertility treatments for those that are trying for a baby and struggling to do so naturally. Okay, so just to start off straight away, the endocrine system is a system of glands, particular tissues within your body that have one job. Their job is to release hormones directly into the blood. Okay, so if it's called an endocrine tissue, it releases these chemical messengers, which are referred to as hormones, which go directly from the gland into the blood that flows through it. And what actually happens with these hormones? Hormones are chemicals that go around the whole entire body in the blood. Now, every single cell in the body will come into contact with those hormones, but only those cells on the target tissues will actually respond to those hormones if they have things called receptors on their membrane. For example, when the pituitary gland sends out hormones such as estrogen and testosterone, and when teenagers are going through puberty, what will happen is only certain regions of the body will respond, and that's when we see the changes in the genitalia, hair growing in certain places, and we don't have hair growing in other places where we wouldn't expect, like our elbows, etc., because they do not have the receptors to respond to those hormones. So the endocrine system is glands that release hormones directly into the blood, and a hormone is a chemical messenger that changes the way parts of the body are working at the target tissues. So what I'm going to show you now is all the keywords, or a large number of the keywords and their definitions of what they actually mean. Now, having now read, I'm going to ask you to go and read the Caboodle pages or watch the free science lesson videos and then log back into this video and pause it here and try and match the definitions up. So I'm going to leave you now, ask you to pause, and then we're going to look at which ones match up. Okay, welcome back if you've done that task. And this is now the matched up definitions. And you can see those important ones I've already mentioned in orange, the endocrine gland at the top, and the pink one, hormone, down here, linking up to the chemical messengers that change the way the target organs in the body actually work. Now, I'm going to focus just briefly on a couple of activities now, again linked in with one section of this course, which is the control of our blood glucose or our blood sugar. Again, this is controlled by endocrine tissues in our body, and mainly the ones which are the pancreas here, which is the one that controls our blood sugar levels, as well as producing digestive enzymes, but we won't talk about the enzymes in this section right now. So you'll see this spread here. Again, I'm going to ask you to pause the video or log out, go and see the Caboodle textbook, or indeed look at any of the posted videos on there, and you'll see the red words at the bottom of the screen here. These can be used to fill in any of these blanks where the red lines are. Now, they can be used more than once. And if you're doing foundations here, you'll be able to complete the flow of blood glucose. You'll only have to do the top half of when blood glucose levels rise too high. And if you're doing higher tier, you'll have to do both the top and indeed the bottom. So I'm actually going to pause the video here, do some research on the Caboodle textbooks, or watch any other additional videos, and then come back and attempt this activity, and I'll talk you through it as we then fill it in just a moment. Okay, so let's see how you've got on with that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through the top half first. So if we're starting over here, our blood glucose is normally optimum levels. When we then actually eat some food, our blood glucose levels actually increase because our body starts digesting down the carbohydrates such as starch within our diet, and actually then in the small intestine that's absorbed into the bloodstream as glucose. Okay, that causes our blood glucose levels in our bloodstream to rise, and this is detected by the pancreas, which is the endocrine gland involved here. The pancreas then, in response, releases a hormone, a chemical messenger, which you will have heard of, called insulin. Insulin goes around in our blood and it activates the target tissues, namely this organ at the top just here, which is called the liver, and as well as the muscles. And the hormone insulin causes our blood glucose to be converted into a long chain and highly branched molecule of glucose called glycogen, which is stored in both the liver and the muscles. Now you'll see the diagram here to help you understand that. Glucose is single units, and when insulin acts upon it, and particularly within the liver, it is stuck together to form this long chain, which is glycogen. Okay, this process that insulin triggers removes blood glucose from our blood, and what that causes is our blood glucose levels to decrease back towards the optimum levels. If that were left too high, it can cause things called hypoglycemic shock, and that can actually really change the way people's body functions. It can cause water to go in the wrong direction, and that can cause a great deal of problems. The beautiful thing about glycogen is it doesn't affect the water potential of our cells, and it doesn't cause water to flow in and out of them because it's insoluble, which is a really important feature, and therefore it doesn't affect the way water flows around our body, which is really important. If you're doing higher tier, you will be required to actually look at the opposite. When actually we exercise and our blood glucose levels decrease because we burn that glucose up in the process of respiration in our cells. Again, this change is detected by the pancreas. Right? And the pancreas releases a hormone, and then again, it's another G word, a hormone called glucagon. An easy way of remembering it is when the sugar is gone, it's glucagon. Okay, the hormone glucagon causes the glycogen, that highly branched molecule here, which is stored previously in our liver and our muscles, to be converted back into the singular units here of glucose. That glucose is then released back into the bloodstream, and as a result, the amount of glucose in our blood goes up, and therefore our blood glucose levels increase back towards our optimum. If that's too low, you'll have a hypoglycemic shock, and if it's too high, our glucose levels, we call it hyperglycemia. So it's really, and these can have huge impacts on our body, so it's really important we have a system of hormones in place to try and make sure that any changes come back to normal. It's really important to also know that our blood glucose levels very rarely stay at optimum. They are always fluctuating above and below, and your body is continually releasing these two hormones from its pancreas, both insulin when it's too high and glucagon when it's too low. Okay, that's just one section of this. What we need to look at next is then the other sections which I listed at the start of the video. And you can do that by logging onto Caboodle and reading the pages that are listed on Show My Homework, or watch the free science lessons that are videos that are posted also on your homework. Then go into the notifications and you need to complete the quizzes to see how you're getting on. If you're struggling for time or you're struggling to fit them all in with your workload, the most important quiz to do is indeed the checkpoint quiz. Please contact your teacher if you're struggling at any point, and we wish you the very best of luck. Hope you guys are good, and see you soon. Bye-bye.